3 hours east of Las Cruces and only 20 miles south of the town of Carlsbad, off US 62 West, are the legendary Carlsbad Caverns. Under this vast limestone-crusted desert terrain is a wide opening in the plateau, the mouth to a cave more magical and mesmerizing than you'll find anywhere else on Earth. This is Carlsbad Caverns, one of our state's greatest wonders. Comprised of multiple chambers housing endless formations that are all at once sprawling, towering, hovering, and enveloping, they reveal themselves at every turn as you wander through this subterranean wonderland. There are several different tours for exploring the caverns, and I've opted for the ranger-led tour of the King's Palace, whose chambers are the deepest part of the caverns accessible to the public. Valerie leads me down a zigzagging trail to the gateway to the King's chambers, and with every step my anticipation grows, as do the number of questions I have. Like, what am I looking at, and how did it get this way? As simple as it sounds, it's baffling.
Okay, so the water collects on the surface from rain and snow melt, and then it percolates down slowly, very slowly through cracks and crevices. When it reaches the cave, then it drips. And those drips are what leaves behind minerals. The water evaporates, but the minerals stay behind. And so that's how stalagmites and stalactites are formed.
Okay, and what are the differences between the two?
So a stalagmite grows from the ground up. It might reach the ceiling, is a good way to remember it, and a stalactite grows from the ceiling down.
Okay.
And they grow depending on drip rate. So if it's dripping really fast, it's going to drip to the ground and stalagmites will be formed. If it's a slow drip, then you'll get stalactites.
And when the two meet, they form a column. Look at me, collecting knowledge the way those stalactites amass their drips. Slowly but surely.
This room is humongous.
Yeah, this is called the King's Palace, which is really, really gorgeous. Over here is the King's Court, so waiting for the king to arrive with the guillotine hanging above him, which is a drapery, basically.
And you see a very pronounced column.
Well, you would think it's a column, and we wondered, and so we took a ladder one time and climbed up, and you can actually slip a piece of paper in between the two. They don't meet. So that formation is called the frustrated lovers.
Frustrated. That's awesome.
So as we enter into this little cave, we blasted this 83 years ago so we could connect the two chambers. And over the 83 years, these little tiny baby stalactites have formed about the size of the tip of your baby finger. So 83 years, pretty cool.
Per millimeter. And the reverberation here is so crazy.
Isn't it great?
Narrow tunnels between the chambers, minimal lighting, and the quiet, echoing nature of the cave's architecture lend to a feeling of total immersion. And if I wasn't already tapping into the cave experience, Valerie was going to ensure that I would be soon.
I'm going to give you an experience like you've never had before. It's going to be total darkness, to the point where you're not going to be able to see anything.
Okay.
So are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay.
Should I sit down first?
You might want to. Yeah, that would be a good idea. So the darkest dark that you can ever imagine, your eyes can't even focus on any tiny beam of light.
Am I dreaming?
Sitting in the darkness, I couldn't help but wonder how it felt for the people who first ventured into the cave, like Jim White, who first discovered it.
But Jim White was a 16-year-old boy, and he was out ranching the land, and he saw what he thought was smoke. And so he rode over on his horse to investigate what he assumed was a fire, and it was actually the bats exiting the cave. And when he saw the mouth of the cave, that intrigued him to want to know more. And so he made these rickety ladders and came down here with kerosene lamps and spent, 40, 50 years exploring the cave over his lifetime.
Man.
Can you imagine coming into this cave
kid.
as a kid in the pitch darkness? You'll really brave, I think, of him.
Absolutely.
I consider myself an adventurous and curious spirit, but I pale in comparison to Jim White.
So up here, this formation is called the Orchestra, and you can see the conductor with his arms up,
Yeah.
and then the one playing the violin.
That's crazy.
Really pretty.
It looks so fragile. Like it's a little thing, but
It
they're
is,
bent.
yeah.
It's cool.
Awesome.
Play on, maestro.
So this area is called the Papoose Room.
Valerie points out the statuesque formation for which the room is named, as well as the appropriately named soda straws, who in their more mature years will become stalactites. After my tour of the King's Palace, I head to the big room to take in some of the cave's most notable and spectacular large formations. In exploring its many chambers, translating the scope and majesty of the caverns eludes me. so I reflect on the poem by William Felter. Here Titans toiled to rear this vast cathedral of the depths. No word can picture all the loveliness that nature here has fashioned for the eye. Here, pompous man sinks into nothingness. His deeds must pall before the infinite. What words cannot explain, though, experience will convey. You must see it for yourself. If you make it to King's Palace, look for the smudge marks on the walls where early explorers left handprints to help them find their way out of the cave. If you're able to go between April and October, don't miss the bat flight at dusk. If you're an adventurous traveler, you may want to check out some of the other tours like the Spider Cave or Hall of the White Giant.